Destroy it. No, contact!
Hold the line!
5, 2, 3, 9. Yep, direct taking fire.
And we are live. Avitus, take it away.
Glory to Callahan Brothers, and welcome to another episode of No Man's Land. We have a lot to talk about today, so we'll get the introductions out of the way. We are joined by the leader of 82DK, Razor. Please say hello, Razor.
Hey guys, welcome again.
And our resident orc and artillery specialist, Dark Leftovers.
Oi, what's up, Gitch?
And our forever super special guest, the infantry and command specialist, Kazansky.
Hello, Phyllis.
Now,
Right, so we
Avitus, if I may,
today. Of course.
just a quick thing, because we here on the show have a very special follower and supporter every month, so I felt like
At the very start.
it wouldn't be fair to not play his alert live on stream, especially how I know you love it, especially Avitus, to hear it again and again. So I'll just play this real quick.
I love it.
That's a spicy meatball! Oh! That is a spicy meatball!
Right, now that that's out of the way, thank you, Jackson. We can move on.
He just records me, okay, and I say some stuff sometimes.
You make that sound way more creepy than it is.
Yeah, you can't. You're no longer safe if Razor's in the same PC as you. He just uses everything, blackmails you, and forcing us to do this podcast because he has so much recordings of us
Yep.
saying a bunch of foul
That's a
stuff.
spicy meatball! Oh!
Right. Shall we get
That
into
is a
the
spicy meatball!
meat?
And potatoes.
2 months of keeping kebabnet.
We got a lot of slides today, so let's just start not shotgun through this, but let's get to the next one because I know we have introduction, but we almost always say all the bullshit before that.
I'm sorry. Commissar General just subscribed. Thank you for that, man. It was funny because it attacked the kebabnet. So I like how policies are being paid in the stream now. So that's nice to see. Anyway, yeah, I agree. We can move on. We can. So current war. I don't think there's any point of world war, right? I don't know of any
There's a war?
current war. Yeah, exactly.
Just like extended resistance phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can just have a few words about the end of the real war, the only war.
I mean, something I will say, okay, if the war that we just played was with the current update, we probably wouldn't have won it because the amount of artillery fire on Kirknell would have leveled it. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking the war would have turned out differently if it was actually updated for War 69 rather than in a couple of weeks or whatever it's going to be. That being said, the Wardens did an absolutely excellent job holding off, and we have to thank KFC for inspiring the Warden Empire to fight on, and there couldn't have been any truer words said that could have inspired us more than what he said. So
Now you're making me sad that I didn't prepare any memes for that because there was a lot of them and there were some really good memes.
I'm sure people know what we're talking about.
Oh god.
So thank you for that, dude. And standard shit. I mean, it was a grind, and then we got to late game tech, and then we just broke through. We broke through on Saturday, and by Sunday it was over. Pretty much, we were rounding them up into prison camps and stuff. So well done.
Yeah, there were some really cool moments there. The encirclement of abandoned ward, especially, that's becoming a tradition. Either by taking the maps around them, or this time they just took every town around Abandoned World. That was really nice. What else? There was some really important moments into it. We cracked some bunkers. We cracked the 404 base. I'm always proud about that because that's a tradition for us. If you guys remember the Iron Junction base a few wars ago, that massive fucking monstrosity on the hill that we broke with free SP and like all those RT guns and the battle tanks, it was nuts. It like as a lot of people are pointing out, it's a shame that not more colonials take 404's approach to the game, and actually even if they're losing, they don't show up to defend those bases, right? Because that's really fun, right? Trying to assault those.
The joy of it, you know, it's not just PvE. You actually have people to oppose and potentially stop you. You know, like I even admit, like they got a good shot, like on one of our RD guns, and it's just like, you know, at least there's someone's home rather than normal.
Yeah,
PvE a base, and it's just, oh well, hey guys, we're destroying bases now, and just sit around, and that's not fun. I mean, you'll be at it for about like 2 or 3 hours because of how the AI howies are set up. But at least if there's people on the opposite end firing back at you, throw some suspense and actual content into the mix.
Yeah, and like that's why I feel like 404 deserves props for that. You know, for like showing up to defend what they built, not only like, well, this is lost. You know, goodbye. We'll just have fun PvEing all of this shit. I think they deserve a bit of appreciation for doing that and being basically the one of the only groups that actually follow through and defend their own.
I mean, they deserve a pretty big one too, because I mean, they pretty much created the whole content for the whole like Viper Pit siege.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even have these like awesome experiences. You know, from them invading us multiple times, and then the push back, and then finally, you know, that putting that flag on their base. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so beautiful. You know.
Quite so. Right. I'll just leave it open if you guys want to say anything, like any last remarks on the war, or should we just move on?
Let's get into it. We'll be here
Thanks,
all day,
Bacon.
man. We got a lot to go.
Move on. Next slide.
Righto. So little to say. Oh, okay. It's time for bits. Thank you, Tsar. Thank you, Bacon, for sprucing up the chat with some bits here and there. Well, everybody knows the name of the update, so I'll move forward. We'll just talk about the 4 parts that make up this update, right? The regiment updates, the one we've been crying for. I think it's up to 3 years now, Dark. Probably. We're probably there, right?
Foxhole ever since DK was a thing, we've been asking for something like this. So
I mean, you don't want to take away from the fact that regiments have been needed for a number of years now, and the fact that we're finally getting them is great. You know what I mean? I'm over that we're getting them. It's just sort of like it's 3 years in, guys. Come on, you know what I mean? Could you not have done anything at all? You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's like I'm just holding my breath. Is it little too late? Is it too little too late? Sort of thing.
It's finally here, but I get what you're coming from. Where it's like it took them this long. You know what I mean? At this point, not saying we're already out the door, but you get me. Like, there's no point of holding the door when I'm already out. You know.
So long as it works, I'll be forgiven from my perspective, right? Like,
yeah.
they can a competent system in their early access game that we can feel good about, and it can be a nice partner to the existing infrastructure we have. It's great. If it's doesn't work, then it's God help us. You know,
they did say that they wanted input to change the system in the coming months.
Sure.
So.
Like, I mean, yeah, but they say that all the time. So.
I know, but they put emphasis on
that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is ours, right? Like, this is the one thing that we like.
We should have a voice on.
We
should
have something on, yeah.
Yeah.
I just,
Hopefully they
I,
listen to whatever remarks we have. Go.
I just think that if it's if it's a good system, like Kaz said, then yeah, they can be partially forgiven. I just think that if we'd have got it earlier, it could have really helped with player retention.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. But like, I'm with Kaz 100%. I think if it works and if it's good, everything's forgiven. That's sort of how it works in video games in general. But yeah, so rather than just talking about each individual, and let's proceed because we're gonna see them anyway. So let's dive in on the regiment system. Here's like a small overview of the first iteration, I guess you could call it, because it is a first iteration sort of a thing. So we've got basically a basic system where you have your members, you have your commanders, which I guess it's sort of a owner position, or
You're gonna have a leader, and then you're gonna have officers. Hopefully, there's
Yeah.
no on officers, because that would be a little bit silly.
Yeah, that's what's going to really pressure us if they've got weird hard caps on there, right? That's not going to affect the majority of things, but it's going to really make it.
I mean, what I would want to
for us.
see, in a system like this is they say they've got squad assignment there. Does that mean that you're going to be able to split the platoon up into?
I don't
different-
think that's the case yet. I feel like
What you should be able to do is assign like an officer and then drag people into his squad, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like channels on Discord or wherever, and
nah.
you get the.
No, so for now, from what I understand at least, it's more of a like, I'll give you an example, right? I make the regiment, I invite you guys over, and all of this is visual, right? I can see what squad you're on, I can see what region you're on, but I can't decide, stuff like move you to another squad or create multiple squads or stuff like that. That seems to be in the future sort of thing. Although I was looking at the slides, and I think it's possible, right? Since you have the options to view what squad they are, what regiment role, and so on and so forth. So hopefully it's not gonna be too much of a stretch to hope they're gonna integrate some more functionality on the squad side at least. Right.
But here's the good thing. Here's some really good news in this. Like, this is pretty bare bones, but it's got the bare bones you need to start helping players organically organize a lot better for two reasons. First of all, the dedicated text channel, I think, is not completely irrelevant. It's relevant for us because we've already got superior organization to that. But imagine a group of players that is trying to come together, and now they have, they can get away from all the other text clog possibly. And then secondarily, maybe I'm overselling this, but the Discord link also helps as well, because it helps people have some method within the game to start integrating with the community centers that really support collaboration that they don't have in game right now. And so I think that those two things could really be interesting ways to help people integrate with the strong existing channels in the community using something that's quite bare bones. So I don't think, again, I wish it was more robust, but it checks the boxes to do something very important.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to comment on something that they said. They said something like along the lines of I forget what I was going to say. Let me try and remember, and I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Take your meds.
The one of the aspects I'm not gonna lie, I'm not particularly happy with is the solution they found around people, taking other people's tags, where it works like a Discord tag and you have a 4-digit number in one on. The issue I have with that is it still doesn't solve the problem of people just impersonating, other groups easily. And I know there's no easy solution for this, but at the same time, it's not like this community has like fucking a few thousand clans. and it would have been impossible to like reserve the names or something, right? Just this is I might be asking for too much here, but in my opinion, a more elegant solution in a community that has, like realistically, I don't think there's more than 50 clans, at least clans that are bigger than 5 people, let's say, right?
I don't think is there that many? 50?
I'm just spitting out a number for like both faction combined, and like
It's not
probably
a lot.
it's not a lot, right? So I think considering it was not that many clans to deal with, just having this sort of reservation phase first, where current clans can sort of reserve their name into the coming system, so nobody can fucking take them over, and then after that point, everybody new can just create whatever name they want, and they can have it forever, right? No problem there, right?
Yeah.
This is gonna be
it'll be interesting to see how it executes.
It's gonna be annoying because, like, the thing is, especially so they clarified for allies, right? You're just gonna see 82DK avatars, right? It doesn't matter what number is behind there. So anybody can just like create a random 82DK tag and wear it around, and you need to constantly check for that number to see if it's the actual 82DK, which I find horrendous, honestly. On when it's the enemy, right? When you're gonna be able to see their number on the enemies, right? So that's gonna be a bit harder for them to pull off, because you're gonna at least be able to see the number all the time. But
Maybe
it's
you
just
can't put this. Maybe you can't put the same tag in or something like that as another squad.
no. You can definitely can. You can definitely can.
We'll have to change that one. That's something that's going to cause a lot of problems. But back to my earlier point that I totally forgot about. They have like said that the public, like not the public, the randoms are going to be the focus of this system more than the clans, and I think that's the right thing, to tell you the truth.
I agree.
Like I was really glad when they said that, because that's the area where it's needed, truly needed, because we've already sorted this shit out on our own a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? Those people don't have this level of organization, and helping them with a tool like this is going to drastically improve the players that you're seeing on Foxhole, in my opinion, especially by these like groups of random players that grinding at fronts and stuff like that. You're going to get one guy who perhaps plays on his own, he's clanless, but he's a lieutenant colonel, and he'll start a squad and he'll invite all these randoms, and he'll lead them to do something useful, rather than having to go to a fob and be charismatic enough to garner enough attention towards him, to then lead them out, because that's the current method at the moment. The only way that you're getting people to follow you as a random is being charismatic enough to entertain them to follow you along, like a Pied Piper or something like that. You know what I mean? But with this system, it at least gives the option for people that want to play as a team to seek out those squads, that are showing levels of organization. So I think, like, definitely the right idea to go after the randoms with this, and it needs to be thrown down their throats that this is a system that they need to be using. They need to be logging on. They need to be coming onto this system. They need to be, right, what are these squads? What region am I fighting in? Right, there's a anti-partisan squad. I'll join that, or whatever. You know what I mean? That needs to be the thing, and hopefully that's what they're going for.
Yeah, so the bottom line is, like Kaz said, basically, this is a good start, right? This, sadly, I think we could have had this a long time ago. I refuse to believe this was something extremely complicated that needed months of work or anything like that. I just feel like they always prioritized other stuff ahead of it. And, ultimately, like you guys said, I think probably a lot of player retention would have been achieved if this was earlier in the game. But
Or at
hopefully,
least saved.
yeah. But hopefully, let's hope that they'll grow on it, and we'll see more functionality, and it's just gonna make everybody's life easier.
They finally have a newborn baby, and it's clan support. Now they just gotta cherish it and raise it right, and then it could only grow up to something good for the game.
Yeah, my only concern is it's a kid that's got to grow up super fucking quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you're right on that. You're right on that.
And here we go into the second part of the update, if I can call it like that, because it's a four act show. Infantry arms race. So in translation, asymmetry in infantry weapons. And I'm just gonna take some safety distance from my computer and give it over to Kaz.
Everyone, brace yourselves.
Yeah. So a couple disclaimers real quick. First of all, everything from here on out, I'm pretty down on. So I'm going to say that right now, and also say that I am heavily predisposed to not like what I'm getting ready to see. And so I'm putting all these acknowledgments out here saying I'm not rational, I'm not being reasonable, I haven't seen the numbers yet. So all that's clarified before I say I absolutely hate this and I hate the direction that it's going. And the reason, and like I guess, like the reason I explain that is not necessarily because of what's here, but because of what's not here, I guess. In that, we're looking at this because I never looked at where we were at in infantry and said, dang, I lack creative ways to kill other infantry. Like that's not been something I've uttered. In infantry combat, when I can find it and have it, it has been fine and is okay in this game. And I think bringing the joys of asymmetry to infantry is just going to be an exercise in frustration. The same frustrations that we've already seen in mechanized combat, though less profound, perhaps, because what you're going to find here is you're going to find balance issues in this stuff because it's not this development team, from my opinion, has not shown themselves capable of doing the fine tuning required to balance asymmetrical weapons. And that's going to play out in infantry across thousands of little conflicts that are going to either favor or disfavor a faction. And maybe it's like 55-45, right? You're disadvantaged, like you're going to lose just 5% more of your engagements because that, just the balance is just off slightly. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I don't believe when the chips hit the ground that this is going to be done well. And I don't know that until I see it. Fully acknowledge I'm just already pessimistic about it. And furthermore, what it doesn't address is the ongoing issues that are making infantry not fun right now. As I said before, I'll say again, I don't lack creative ways to kill infantry. I don't lack innovative ways to go around and kill infantry. I lack ways to deal with structures and buildings and the chokehold that those things have on the game. Right now dealing with armor can be frustrating from time to time, but I have tools to do that. And now I have tactics that I can utilize to deal with armor today. Having new anti-armor mechanics is kind of nice. That's okay, I guess. And we'll see how that is applied, but it doesn't affect the core things that make infantry unfun right now. Namely, grabbing 30 guys, putting 3 HEs on each guy and ramming them headfirst in defenses over and over again. Because that's half of our gameplay experience. That's not addressed by this. And maybe when we talk about the arty segment, we can address that perhaps in part, but I don't think that that's going to do it either. And so very disappointed in where this is headed. I don't think this helps anything.
Right.
Okay, I'm done.
Keep it on the infantry side, Avitus.
Okay, so I totally get where Kaz is coming from. And I'd like to just put it out there that I'm trying to be optimistic about this, but I can see a lot of holes appearing, especially in the types of weapons. So let's just talk about one weapon in particular that is going to change the face of infantry gameplay, and that is the two-handed SMG for the secondary SOP for the Colonials. Now,
I think it
I'll picture
have it
this.
somewhere. I'll try and.
Yeah, so it's I think it's that first one that you showed.
That's the burst one, I think. Give me a second here. Yeah, there we go.
That's the one. Okay, so you gone past it.
It's fine. I'll get back to it though.
Okay, so this gun is 9mm, so it shoots pistol rounds. Okay, but it's a very rapid firing gun. I'm not sure how many rounds it holds. If it's 15. Okay, so it's loading pistol ammo, shooting 15 rounds. So you're pushing a Colonial with a rifle, and he's behind level 3 cover. Not a good situation in the best of times. And you've got your bolt action rifle that is Warden. Okay, now you're pushing this guy. He managed to get close enough to to hit him or whatever in an advantageous position or whatever, but you're getting closer to him. This guy can whip out this little thing, and he doesn't need to kill you. All he needs to do is slow you, really. And if it suppresses as well, it's going to be an absolute nightmare in close quarters combat, this thing. Then you take it over to armor, and you're going to have tank commanders carrying this thing. So, I know we're getting a lot more anti-tank weapons that might balance it out or whatever, but this thing is going to be an absolute nightmare for infantry trying to gain an advantage on a tank, which might not be a bad thing. but we'll have to see how it goes. The fact that it's not a bad thing if it was for both factions. If both factions had a version of this thing, then all well and good. But it all comes back to this asymmetry thing that is just it's a slippery slope, and we're a long way down the bank by this point. There's several different problems that I see with other little weapons and stuff like that. The tripod thing, cool as fuck. That's awesome, yeah. But I can see problems with it in this game and how people are going to treat it. Okay.
Well, I don't want you to cut in, but it's like it's going to be the same problems we have with the current field guns, but take off their wheelchair wheels and slap them into a more confined space, and it's like, like you're just holding up the flag, grenade me with these bipods or these tripods, even though they finally brought them in after so long of promising them. But again, like how the current game is played, I have no expectations for these tripods to perform in an actual combat PvP scenario.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be weapons that you can really mount an offensive capability, but in these grindy matches between randoms and stuff like that, and in certain circumstances with us, they are going to be useful, but like everything, they're going to be circumstantial. And I just think that these little tripods are going to be littered fucking everywhere. People are going to set them up with no gun. You know what I mean? And you're just going to find them everywhere. And I don't know. We're just going to have to see how it plays out, in my opinion. Yeah. But it's like I don't want to get into the weather thing because we have to talk about that later on. But
right.
That ties into infantry as well. You know what I mean? So like the whole cold thing, they're really going for wanting to make you attack a base at a certain time and then pull back at other times. So you're going to what I think they're going for is like they want two sides to sit in their trenches while there's a storm going on. They don't want you attacking each other. They want you to sit in your own defenses in your trenches around fires and shit like that, with these guns, pointed out into no man's land. Because if the enemy push you, they're not only having to deal with the fact that they've got these guns up against them, these set up emplacements, but they're going to be running super slow. They're going to be freezing to death and all that type of shit. So they're really going for this. They're wanting this defensive type of play with infantry, in my opinion.
So to quickly just respond, I think that so first of all, to the support SMG, that gun is either broken or useless depending on how the bloom of it is. And I just know from personal experience, having watched many a sticky runner run through a withering gunfire of accurate weapons, that gun could be completely useless or completely broken. It just depends on how it's fine-tuned. We won't know until you use it. Same thing with the tripods. But the tripods, I think it's dependent on the agility. How quickly can you hop on, hop off? How quickly can you deploy it, set it up? That's either broken or useless depending on how clunky it is to pull together. And grenade launchers get a lot better real quick. And grenade launchers were already sick. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just really interesting. I'm going to have to, again, as far as anti-infantry combat is concerned, I don't know if this stuff's going to be good or bad. We'll find out something. That's not what I'm concerned about. Yeah? Like some of these things may change. Some of these things will be good. Some of these things will be useless, I think. And there's a lot of stuff to unpack here for sure. And it's all going to shake out.
I think the worst part of it is thinking about the current tech system and how it goes. And now that we have asymmetry with infantry weapons now, we can desperately be missing out on a lot of core things if certain things aren't aligned up, at all.
So remember, just the big thing. Remember the lesson of the emplacement machine guns. When we first saw the emplacement machine guns, I think most of our opinions were, well, this thing's going to be freaking useless, dude. Like, who would use this and why? Until we figured out that they were unbelievably durable, and the enemy couldn't use them, and the durability of that tool. And the fact that there was really no downside to it made it busted good. You know what I mean? And so there's these weird things that we just can't conceive yet because we make some assumptions about these things. And then when we go out and see it, like, oh, well, we didn't expect it to be tankier than a fob. You know what I mean? And so we got to watch out for that stuff.
Yeah, so I'll try and stick with the slides here. So I think mostly on the screen should be colonial stuff because it's the submachine gun. We'll see later the free burst
If they get-
rifle.
If
There's this
they get
new
that
sniper.
they get that handheld flare gun
Thank you
there,
for the follow,
and
you
we
non-essential
don't,
scum.
that's going to be a fucking game changer for them. Like
The
they can push
aesthetics
with
looks like
They
they're
can
it's
push with
colonial.
tanks during the night. If they got that, they can push with tanks during the night, dude. You know what I mean?
Well, I will be hoping if we don't get the a flare gun ourselves, maybe some other you know what I'm saying, like maybe something else that can fire a flare, or maybe our mortar variant has a flare and theirs doesn't, or who knows? Who knows? But I'm expecting some sort of flare capability to hopefully come on both sides. Well, again, who knows there as well? Because for the longest time, you know, we had 40 millimeters on the silver hands. They didn't. They had mortars on their half trucks. We didn't. So anything's possible. No sort of reciprocity between like tools available has ever been kept since asymmetry. So I wouldn't expect them to do it right on the small arms all of a sudden, to be honest, just to manage our expectations there.
Yep.
But yeah, I think there's an interesting discussion to have about the variety of anti-tank weapons as well. Like, holy fuck! I don't know if you guys saw the video on this thing on the Piat one. It fires with an arc, like you can shoot over obstacles. It's incredible. Like, Christ Almighty.
So this is the launchers for both factions, right? We get the Piat and the Colonials get the Shrek, right?
I believe.
Yeah.
Aren't they both Warden or is
No.
one Colonial?
No, one is colonial, and it works similar to the RPG, like a Panzerschreck, just fires forward. But the Warden one, the one that looks like a Piat, has basically an arc when firing, so you can definitely like fire over other vehicles. For example, like you can sit with this thing behind your friendly tanks and just lob projectiles on the enemy tanks.
Point, yeah. It's a good point.
If there's one thing I like to do is standing behind tanks. You know that, Razor.
Yeah, exactly. And
My
then
infantry.
and
That's your infantry.
the fun part is, wait, there's more. Like,
But wait, like, what? I'm fucking confused now because we saw that, and now what are these? Are these
So-
like Colonials are getting?
colonials are getting some sort of what I can just describe as a sort of sticky launcher. It's similar to a sticky launcher if you think about it. It's like a sticky grenade. You just fucking, just fucking release off of this. What I'm assuming is these things are gonna be released through the tech tree, and their damage is gonna increase down the tech tree, right? So the first iterations are gonna be, smaller damage, capable of dealing with, lighter vehicles easily, and then as vehicles unlock, you also unlock more capable AT. I do like that we get the sort of Afghanistani RPG one looking like, because like God knows people like to fucking roleplay
Also,
like that on our faction.
These
so-
are HE essential art launchers, correct? Am I safe to assume that? Like the ones before were anti-armor rockets, and these ones are more so like HE.
No. Anti-tank can like read it up there. I don't know why the knee mortar is there, but they might probably give us some projectile that works good anti-vehicles, I guess, right? Because the knee mortar is Warden. Pay attention.
What is that? That mortar thing?
Yeah, it's a knee mortar, and it's
Mortar.
and
That's
it's
small mortar or something.
something like that. Yeah, basically, it's on the anti-tank slide, so I'm expecting some sort of AP round of sorts, I guess. Question mark. Nobody knows.
Could be just a theory crafting, like a one-shot mortar.
It's not coming this update though, from what I'm understanding. So it's
Yeah, a lot of these aren't coming either until a few updates down.
some are not. Sort of. It's,
So wait,
most
let
of
me-
them are coming though.
Now I want to do a prediction, just a quick bit. If you go back to the previous slide, Razor,
Sure.
like was the Shrek confirmed to be colonial? Because I'm looking at the design of it, and
I-
the Warden weapons look like a slick, just a metal color. Like The colonial ones have
No.
some green to it.
The way I know, well, at least I'm assuming it is like that. First of all, look at the blue band on ours, and then the colonial one has the green shield. You see that shield?
green?
Yeah,
It's green.
that's
The
green.
the metal's greeny. I can see it now.
Oh no,
I'm
you're
looking.
right then.
Yeah.
You're right. At first, I was looking at it, and I wasn't looking at it too sharply. But no, you're right. You're right.
And if you look closely, if you look really closely, you can almost see. In fact, on the shield, it's got a little H for heresy. So you know.
There you go. That's how you know.
It has been fucking solved right here, ladies and gentlemen. Case closed.
It shows you right there. The operator is indeed, in fact, a heretic.
Thing is, like, Christ Almighty, I'm starting to think.
I'm a little jealous.
Jealous on what?
They have the name of it slips on the tip of my tongue, but the top, the one-shot use rocket.
It's like a what's it called? The things from
Panzer
Heroes
Force.
and Generals. Yeah, they're them things.
That's
The one
that
shot
would be
thing.
good because it's one thing that Logi always hates what people do is when they get an RPG and grab like just one shell loaded up and they just fire it and then drop that on the ground. This could fix that whole situation. Because
Panzerfaust. That's
I
it.
doubt that any of these are gonna be one shots though. I do
no,
believe
well,
it.
the Panzerfaust, they have a GIF of it being used. You shoot it, and as soon as you shoot it, you drop it on the ground.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah,
I sorry, I
disposable,
must have lost that. Oh, that's great then, because that's a nice role to have. Although
That's why I was like, I'm jealous of stuff.
yeah, the Piat is gonna be like I'm just I'm very happy about the Piat because I wouldn't want that against me. So
Well, a
That's-
disposable anti-tank launcher for infantry is like a game changer when you think about it. Because
Yeah.
instead of being like, all right, guys, pull a sticky each. We've got a tank down the
just
road.
grab
or whatever.
the
Just grab a bunch of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if it's got range, you know what I mean. It's going to be even easier to flank a tank or something like
yeah.
that.
I
With
definitely
infantry.
think all vehicles are fucked next update. I'll probably only leave the safety of our defenses if I have like free spotters and everybody's watching a direction at all time, so you can back up in time to fucking not get flanked by 5 infantry this shit and just get totally mauled to death.
Razor, I can
So-
send you the GIF of it in action, of actually all of them in action. So that
So,
one's the Panzerfaust looking one. Oh, go.
So, Milky, yeah, they've talked about Bangalore's a few times, and I do think that they're going to come out at some point in the future. Hopefully, we will get a way of like the Bangalore will be a very specific type of use for clearing barbed wire or something like that, where it's a more expensive way of clearing barbed wire, maybe, but in certain circumstances, we all know that if we had the option to blow open barbed wire, we would, because taking the position and trying to wrench it down is just not an option. It would also make the barbed wire meta when defending a little bit, less tedious.
Give me a sec. I'm gonna just quickly work on getting this.
I think Razor's going to set up. We have some GIFs in the
just so you can.
the FOD
Oh,
has uploaded.
What for
Yeah,
each of the launches?
Just the Piet and the Panzerfaust. They have. If you actually go on FOD, they have a category right on the top. It's called Winter Army stuff, which is just, I guess, some teases and some demos of what's up and coming.
Right.
Right, so I'll transition this in a second. Let's see.
But just until Razor gets this fixed, I'm real
there we are.
afraid of armor.
Here we
That's
go.
pretty long range as well.
Yeah.
And they're
exactly
pretty
what we
mobile.
thought it
Like
was.
he's pretty mobile as well. He's pretty
That's
fast.
ridiculous. That's exactly what they were.
I was
That-
expecting a bit of more weight on the player. Like he's a bit more because it's a Panzerfaust, so you should be a bit.
See, 25%. So he's got a pistol. He's got a pistol.
Yeah,
a
it's
hammer.
pretty light. Pretty light.
It's
yeah.
like 10%,
Somebody-
I believe.
Might be able to carry multiple.
Somebody work out the weight.
It just
Yeah.
depends on what the damage value of it is, right? So like you think of an
Yeah.
RPG and how hefty and like crazy, like even just turning it, right? Even turning the RPG is an exercise in futility.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so like if this thing, how many of these does it take to actually do damage to tank? 20?
That's one thing,
Or
but
is it
there's
three?
also another very important discussion is about disabling systems, because if it especially with RNGesus in the game, you know, just getting one of these tracking you, you're so fucked. You're so fucked. You're gone.
I think it's more the fact that these can be pulled. You know, like infantry pull sticky grenades. Like these are going to be fucking everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, every infantry, every colonial infantryman is going to be stupid if he's not carrying one of these things around with him. You know what I mean?
Again, unless the damage values are useless. That's it. All comes down to what that value is.
But damage values are only useless if you're firing one at a time, dude. You know, you get a squad of 5 of these things flanking you, and if every colonial infantry's got one, right? Picture this: every colonial infantry's got one, and you're danger close. You know, you're rolling through a town, whatever. Okay, every single infantry that you come across has the ability to do some damage and possibly track you.
All they need is to really track you, because then they have all the time in the world to do the damage.
Then you take it to any type of organization at all, and I'm talking like 3 friends that have just got the game flanking around and playing together. If 3 of these things are hitting your track, dude, you know what I mean? It's safe to bet that it's
only
going to go
takes
out.
one.
If that's the case, then this thing is busted and we're screwed. If it's 10, then it's maybe not as big a deal. We just don't know. Like we've got our assumptions based on what we're seeing, but we have to wait and see.
The weight is the thing as well, because it's so light that infantry aren't going to be bothered about taking it. You know what I mean? But I mean, this
is my favorite. I fucking love this. This is terrifying and lovely at the same time. Look at the range. Look at the arc. Look at all that shit. Like, Jesus Christ, having a few people behind your tanks just lobbing these at the enemy tanks. Christ almighty.
Yeah, but you notice one thing about this in the last millisecond of the video, of the GIF. Watch. He's still carrying the launcher when he's firing around.
Absolutely. This is like a Piat. It's a weapon.
Like, so the different, like I would, like a million times over, it's going to be the equivalent, like the difference between a bayonet and a grenade launcher. One is, you know, so it looks cool when you use it, but ultimately the other one is just ridiculously better than it. You know what I mean? So it's like...
those 2 are fundamentally 2 different types of launchers. This one was more focused on, like, you even see like the shell, if you go back to the slides razor, that like what they fire. This one is more like a needle shaped rocket. The other one is a little more of a flathead.
Yeah, it is. I'll switch as soon as we finish with the...
The other thing that you notice
this one is pretty interesting.
Look how slow the projectile is on it.
Yeah, true. I mean, it has to make up, but like in the dead of the night, you're not going to see any projectile flying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, you're still gonna be able to hit with it, but because this is more of a skill shot.
Take skill.
It's gonna take. You're gonna see a lot more people whiffing these. Like, just think of old stickies, right? How many old sticky runners did you see throwing these water balloons that just hovered in the air for days and just missing because of that? And then when they suddenly buffed the throw speed, how much more reliable stickies got?
Yeah, I mean, this GIF does point out the strength of that against the enemy that we're facing, because the enemy that we're facing has a shit ton of open top vehicles. So the fact that you can lob the round, I didn't really even think about that.
And think about it at nighttime coming from a flank, just boop.
It's a good counter, I would say. But even still, the fact that, like, I need to see this thing's weight. If I get an idea of how much this weighs and how capable the infantryman is carrying one of these things, then it can sway my opinion. But until it actually gets played and I see how it performs and how the other one performs, but I am making the prediction now that this one, although it's going to be useful and very good, is just going to be something that is just not outclassed, but just outmanned, you know, like outnumbered by the other, and the capability of each infantryman to carry one of these things. Because the other thing seems like you'll be able to have an infantryman that's capable with AT early game, but it seems like you're going to have to assign someone to that role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and he's going to be solely focused on carrying that launcher around and firing at tanks. You transfer that to a colonial squad where it's like, right, we don't need an anti-tank guy. The medic can fucking grab one of these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it just follows their general philosophy where the colonials get mass everything, mass this, mass that, vast amounts of shit, and the wardens get these like more evolved engineered
See, as we're
things
going more and more into asymmetry, you're noticing this, divide getting greater and greater. Where they started out by saying, one faction is the attacking faction and one faction is the defending faction, and the two sides are going to model themselves after that. How does one faction then become, more resource rich and be able to like have a buff to mass production? I just don't understand the
and
logic there.
well, there's more to that. To your point, I'll give you another example. I'm really lost to. Uh, According to lore, the battle tanks were a colonial creation that the wardens have reversed engineered. Right? That's the lore of them. The colonials created the battle tanks, and then Mr. Flood reversed engineered them for the
Spent
wardens.
100 versions. Don't forget that. Like apparently he went through 100 drawings to fucking build this.
Right. So if that's the case, now we're
Forgot to take the
presented.
treads.
Now we're presented with basically Panzerfaust on the colonial side, which is a cheap, low tech, right? Low tech option. And the wardens get something as crazy as a Piat, which is like even used in nowadays, which is like,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying, like miles ahead of the rest of the
Yeah.
technology seen here.
I'm not trying to use this as an excuse, but if you think about it, we are fighting in warden territory. So if you were to think about like warden production, or you get me, it's like we're literally
No.
fighting on our resource. Meanwhile, the colonials, they have their resources imported. So while
Yeah.
we're
I think
limited,
One second. The problem I see with it is, so in my head, whoever made the battle tank, which for a lot of the time was the pinnacle of technology in the tech tree, right? Whoever engineered that should be the superior technological faction, sort of, right? No,
yeah,
come
they
on.
did the breakthrough.
But aside from that, those battle tanks that have that lure, equipment-wise, all the technical engineering stuff looks to be superior on the Warden side, right? With the silver hands, and now with the Piats, and I don't know if you guys are following what I'm trying to say. It just feels like it doesn't match up, right? Like on paper, colonials should be more advanced technologically, but in tools of war, wardens seem to put more research into weapons, right? And the colonials just going on brute mass production, send T-34s out there.
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of it's going back to the thing where they're forcing a play style and it's just not fitting the player base. You know what I mean? Like I get what they're going for, but if they'd have reversed the roles, maybe it could have been a little bit better. But I think the fact that we're forced to defend now, and then it like every war, yes, it's different in some, different things happen throughout the war. But if you look at the overarching thing, it's always that we are focused onto the defense because that's how they want the game to play. They want us on the defense, and then we either get pushed all the way back and lose, or we counterattack and win eventually when our tech gets up. And that seems to be the way that every single game is going now. You know what I mean? And it like there's no variation there that we had when we had the same equipment because everything was a level playing field. Yeah, the map was maybe advantageous to colonials in one area and wardens in the other, but overall we had the same types of weaponry. What I was hoping was going to happen as development progressed was that we were going to get the same weapon with different skins. That would have been great. You know what I mean? Like if we got all of this shit, if we got all of the vehicles and all of the grenade launchers, but just with different skins for each faction, that would have been sick. Like how did they not think of that? You know what I mean? Or even consider it?
I think it did. I think it was across on their mind to just do different skins versus actual stat changes. But I think with the pairing of the arms race for vehicles, they're like, oh, what would really be nice instead of it just being skins, let it actually just be its own thing. you know, so that way each faction feels unique. Because essentially their mind goal is content wise. Once you play the colonial side, you want to be like, oh, you know what? Let me try the warden side and see what they have to offer. You get me? It's
Yeah.
like in a game longevity, that's what they're trying to go for. Like,
Yeah,
you know.
they don't really say like they market this as an MMO, right? And it is, but I mean it's like I think that what
No,
they've missed, what they've missed with the whole MMO thing is like we'll go back to World of Warcraft. The whole thing about that game was being part of the Alliance faction or being part of the Horde faction.
I was thinking the same.
Like, and the whole thing about playing an MMO is getting behind the faction that you choose and being loyal to that faction. And people might disagree with me about Foxhole and things like that, but that's the way you find the most enjoyment in an MMO. And why did they not emphasize that or even think about it? It's almost as if they planned the entire the complete opposite. Where you've just said there, where it's like, oh, maybe I'll try colonials, or maybe I'll try wardens, or blah blah blah. It's just like when you pick a faction in an MMO, you should stick with that faction to the bitter end.
Not to say that's anything like wrong with with playing both of them, but like I was thinking as well, and like how many people's do you, not how many friends do you have, or how many acquaintances do you have that if you ask them like Alliance or Horde, they're gonna say both. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Taking a step back
Rare,
to these weapons, the one thing I'm curious about, and we'll know this soon enough, I think once we get in there, is how good is the Piet or the Panzerfaust against structures? Like, is it sticky bomb damage? Are we looking at RPG effectiveness? That kind of thing. Because I mean, I can see those Piets getting in range with those Piets on defenses. That could be a reasonable way for us to close with defenses. Question mark. But
I mean,
looking at the armor,
looking at the projectile though, it looks pretty menacing. Both of them on the colonials and the wardens.
Some damage.
Hopefully,
some damage is good enough, because if you think about it, even the field anti-tank gun, like the pushable one, it still does damage to foxholes, and when you go borderline to it, even though it's meant for armor. Again, any percent damage that isn't like 1% is good, because if you get, like, let's just say for example, if it takes 10 for a foxhole, then yeah, that's pretty BS. But like 3 to 4 shots, you get roughly around there. Those are some decent numbers to start going with,
Well, I mean, we'll see. It'll be.
I guess if those are not efficient, these should be efficient.
Oh wow! I forgot about this, or at least
they have to be.
Yeah,
they have to, at least against foxholes and like shit like that. These things they should be able to eat up. And like I'm really curious to see what's gonna be the bonus for the P-Alt on the tripod. Hopefully range, I guess, even more range.
I think so. Also,
maybe rate of fire ? Because you could load it faster in a configuration like this.
Yeah, I just think the strength of that thing is going to be its mobility, and taking its biggest advantage away. I don't think the P8 launcher is. I mean, it might have a good rate of fire and things like that, but it's going to be in a fixed position, and it's going to get grenaded. Blah blah blah.
I think the point I would make to what you're saying right now is exactly what Kaz kept saying. We don't know, because if it turns out we'll find it in the dev stream probably in the dev branch. I wanted to say, but I'll just give you a stupid example, right? Which might be true as far as we know. If you place this on a tripod and suddenly the range on this thing is like your entire screen, you get what I'm saying?
Yep.
It doesn't matter if how slow it is. You just put it in a position where you can just like throw watermelons at tanks from one side of the other.
It all comes down to what the numbers are, man, and we just don't know the numbers.
I mean, I agree with Max in chat. I don't think these. I think they're labelled as anti-tank weapons solely. They're not going to really do that much. They might be able to take out foxholes at a stretch, but that's going to be it.
Right. And thus goes my ongoing depression with this. We have no answer for structures, and we got to go. Like we're already an hour in. We're not even halfway through. But we have on the infantry side, we have no answers for structures in any of this.
Well, At least for light structures, I say light, I mean only Foxhole.
I'm not worried about foxholes.
Right. It's just bunkers, and that's the big thing. And it's like they're pushing it more towards if you want to destroy a bunker, infantry can't do that. It's artillery's job. Like,
Yeah.
and I get where your point is. Like, it was rough last patch, and it's gonna get. It's not even addressed the coming patch, so it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
It's going to be the cost efficiency of bunkers are through the roof today, and they remain through the roof, if not further so, depending on how these artillery changes go. Because right now, the only thing I see is setting up arty lines to punch through these bunker complexes, because all of the traditional methods are still really bad. And the arty method might be bad. I don't even know that yet.
what next do we got to go? Because we could literally talk for days on these. I don't know if there's
Absolutely.
anything specifically we want to talk with. Unless there's anything you guys want to talk about in particular regarding the firearms that they have.
Oh, we can keep it going. So yeah, Max, we do agree. Most likely, all of these are not going to do anything against structures, and that's why Kaz is really worried about it, because that's what we're really missing right now, right? that's the missing factor.
Grab your HEs and smokes, boys. 45 minutes of charging bunkers. Let's go.
Yum, yum, yum.
Right.
Do
So
we know
this
any
is
more information? I was about to talk about the slide. Like, do we have any information regarding if this is the replacement of the storm rifle for the Colonials, or is this like a
I think there's
carbine twist?
no even like reason to speculate stuff like that at the moment, because like it's just pointless. We'll just find out what's what later on as
When we finally come.
yeah. I just think like if we want to talk about something on these, we should talk about you know, the what the gun can do itself.
Yeah, so 3-shot burst, I'm presuming that has a single fire mode as well. So it's not quite a carbine, is it? I mean, it probably better than a carbine in some circumstances, because you got the single shot from the from this, and if it's got the same damage output range as a carbine, that's already pretty good. Its rate of fire is also very important. But if you're able to burst fire this thing in 3 shots, how much is its magazine? Doesn't tell us, does it? But I'm guessing it's something like 12, like the regular rifle, maybe a bit more. Maybe it's 15 or something.
I see two things. I can take off that stock, and I can take off that dust filter off that.
Thank you, Doug.
So Max was saying in chat, by the way, that the devs already confirmed this is Colonial, and then the Wardens get the Storm Rifle. I'm happy. The Storm Rifle is the better gun to get out of the available infantry guns.
So this is the Colonial Storm Rifle. with a
Sort
3-shot
of.
burst.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Just depends on the range and the bloom on the burst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get an accurate burst, that's could be pretty special.
I'll tell you why I'm happy. I'm happy because I already know the Storm Rifle is a good enough gun. So we don't have to roll the dice on this one. The Colonials are rolling the dice. They might roll high. You know, you never know. They still need to throw the dice first. So I'm happy on this one. I'm definitely.
And if all else fails, you know, put the disclaimer in now. We can always just kill the Colonials and take their weapons off.
Absolutely, always an option.
Yeah.
Right, moving on this bad boy. I'm pretty, you know, they showed it being able to fire out of a trench and whatnot, and I was
this
like,
this thing looks adorable to me. It's pretty
a sausage
jank
maker.
looking.
It's a sausage maker.
It reminds me of that World War One. It's like the worst like machine gun in history. It's like the French machine gun from World War One with the top loading magazine. It kind of reminds me of that because it just looks so jank. You know what I mean? It just looks like a bit of like debris from a construction yard, not a gun.
That's the thing. It looks like a gun you would get from Rust.
It looks like you like got to turn the crank to fire it. You know what I mean? Like a Gatling gun.
This is going to do what we want the heavy machine guns to do, right? Like every person has been in here, taken a heavy machine gun to a trench, tried to crouch, and been severely disappointed with their life choices. And so, you know, this fills a much needed role.
And I think the one thing that's good to notice is that it has a very fast firing rate.
Yeah, but what's its belt?
I don't know exactly the belt, but what I can tell you is the precision of it is fucking laser. Like I was looking at the way that the bullets were flying, almost zero deviation. It was like, you know, ta ta ta, fucking straight line. So this is gonna this is gonna obliterate anything.
Well, you
It
gotta take the consideration that it's a bipod weapon with plus the full cover bonus. So what this thing is gonna be, like you said, like it is a laser. It could be the Warden Buzzsaw essentially.
Let's hope so.
I mean,
This has the potential to be very strong.
they make it pretty clear, even in the description. If you read it, it's like the Malone series of machine guns are unmatched defenders on the battlefield. So they spit it right there.
I hope you can use this while a teammate is crouched in front of you.
Well, you can just use it. You can use it by crouching. It looks like.
Can you imagine being able to set this up on a rip and just be like, "Yeah, stand here, boy."
It just depends. Again, if you can be super agile with this thing, like get up, get down, move, and maneuver, how fast you are is going to make this either busted or balanced. Like I think it's going to be at the very least balanced, but if you can really run around and kind of pivot with this thing's going to be broken.
The big advantage overall is going to be because you can jump in structures with this, and then the game changes. Then no grenade can get you inside there. So
imagine this in a Foxhole is just like, oh my god.
Yeah,
it would be legitimately good though. I'm thinking about that little meme that we thought of there of placing this thing on someone's back. But can you imagine like being able to do that and take down foxholes like that? That would be like a meta fucking game tactic. That.
But you can still fire it just from crouch or prone. You don't need to set it up on somebody.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you get the bonus. You maintain mobility even though you're a machine gunner. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think those types of players are going to be actually pretty useful in certain circumstances, especially when you want your machine gun covered, like by a sandbag of living tissue.
Moving right along.
Yes, nothing to see here. Okay, I'll skip the submachine gun because we already sort of covered it.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
see.
bullshit.
The spread might just ruin this one from what I saw. If its spread is shit, it might not really count. But
I will say one more thing. I will say one more thing about it though. Like, the days of like seeing that you kill the colonial squad and you see that medic carrying at the back with his dinky little pistol and like, you're mine, boy, you're mine. Now that guy's going to present a threat because he's going to be carrying one of these in his ass pocket. You know what I mean? So
try to fuck with me.
But it may go the right way. It may go the way of the revolver, though, right? Like if its range is absolute garbage or its spread is garbage, it's going to be nothing.
I get what you're saying, right? But what you've got to like, yes, you're right, but don't compare it to a mainline weapon. This thing takes up a secondary slot, so you've got to compare it to the pistol and the revolver. Yeah, but I'm thinking rapid fire, especially late game war, is a hell of a lot better than a revolver. You know what I mean?
Think about the edge of disaster that the revolver lives on, from being broken to useless. Like how little of a change did it take?
I get that, mate. But like, it's like you might be able to make the revolver useful. I can make the revolver useful, but like the vast majority of people on the game can't make the revolver useful as a medic. This thing is going to be, even if it's shit, and even if it just even if it, it's only firing 15 bullets, it's still going to be putting a lot of rounds down range that wouldn't have been there before. You know what I mean? So I think what we're going to find with it's all predictions. We're going to have to find out how it plays. But I think this thing is going to be a game changer for them.
Well, just to add my last 2 cents on this, it's the suppression of so much DACA coming at you versus the revolver with its 1 or 2 shots. Now you're gonna have to add where the revolver would have shot maybe 1 or twice, maybe the first shot missed, maybe the second hit. This is gonna be about 10 bullets gonna be spraying towards you compared to 1 shot of the revolver. You get me? And at that point, you're suppressed, and you may or may not. It's all an RNGesus, and we have to see the actual stats of it. But the suppression is what
My bottom line, for me at least, is going to be not all of this, but the staggering on the shots that actually land. If the stagger on the shots that actually land are similar to a pistol, which basically means they do almost nothing to you, then you're mostly and probably going to be fine, and they're going to be limited on the impact. If the staggering on the shots is going to be more, powerful, and it's going to stagger you enough to stop you from what you're doing and so on, then it's going to be a really powerful weapon. That's the way I see it, at least. Do you want to stop on the bone saw? Because I think we sort of covered it.
Yeah,
we talked-
we talked about the bones.
We have much to go.
Wait, the bones. Oh, that was the Piat. That was the Piat. Yeah, we're good.
Right. This is more of a small passing through. They're putting weapon tooltips finally. Thank whoever we can thank.
I didn't even notice they weren't in the game. This is news to me.
They were, but none of them would explain what ammo to get for what gun, or they were more like flavor text, or just saying this is a rifle.
If you've been playing the game, if you've been playing the game as long as we have, you'd never really need to look at stuff like that because you already know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is going to be a very useful thing for new players. So I'm glad it's it.
Yeah, it finally tells you
Good
what
change.
sort of ammo you need, because that was the thing you'd constantly see. I mean, as some people say, most of the people that wouldn't read, they're not going to read now, but it's going to still limit the amount of people that are going to be carrying SMG ammo on them with rifles and stuff like that.
You know what? During a sale, you always get that one kill that you feel really bad about because you kill the guy and he's screaming and he's trying to run away, and you kill him and you look in his backpack and he's got like an SMG with like storm rifle ammo. You know what I mean? And it's like the guy couldn't fight back.
Yeah,
But hopefully
it's gonna.
that will sort the problem out.
There are also these little icons on stuff that like for the sticky has like a little, I think, tank symbol there, and the LT ammo has like a indication that they do what sort of damage and so on and so forth. Hopefully that's going to help people to figure out what to use for what.
They changed the icon boxes for HMG in 14.5 as well, because that gets confused all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, because one is towards the left, one is towards the right. That's basically the difference.
Yeah.
Now let's go into, I don't know into what to go into. Company of Heroes 5 years ago.
I mean, this is such a colossal subject that it's going to be hard to tackle it. So I'm thinking that we just make our own points on it and move on.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Vehicle freezing, going to completely change the game. Entire offensives can be halted by weather. And like I said earlier on, I really believe that they're going for these points in the war where if the entire map gets covered by a storm, one war doesn't have to be the first war, could be the 10th war into this update. Okay, but if an entire map gets covered in a storm for days on end, you're not going to see many offensives because no vehicles are going to be able to drive other than very specialist vehicles like the Warden Scout tank and stuff like that we've yet to get to. But I think that it's obviously going to dramatically change how things are done in the game. Like, even pushing with infantry is going to be very detrimental to that attacking force. Pushing a basic level 1 trench line with infantry is going to be extremely difficult, especially with the new types of weapons, especially for colonials, because we're going to have that awkward looking machine gun pointing all over all of our trenches and defenses and stuff like that. I think the weather system, it could be cool. They talked about these bridge battles that are going to be broken up by the river freezing some days and stuff like that. That's cool as fuck. You know what I mean? That has to be said. That is the whole thing is pretty cool. But how is it going to translate into the actual game? It's difficult to say, and we're going to have to play it to really get a feel for it. But it's going to fundamentally change the game so much that it's impossible to really give a solid yes or no. It's going to be shit or it's going to be great, because it's the type of thing that it's so big that we're going to need to play the game before we find out whether it's good or bad.
So I'll give you the bad first, and then we'll talk about the good. the bad, in my opinion, and I'm gonna make a very unusual parallel with Valheim, the game that everybody's been going crazy with. I know it's a very unusual one, but I think it makes sense because what I found that I really like, and I think a lot of people like in that game, is the systems around surviving in the game, right? So you need in that game you need food to like have a good HP base and whatnot. But if you don't eat anything, you don't die. You just have low HP, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically the winning system in my opinion, and that's what Foxhole should have applied in the case of weather as well. So if it's a fucking snowstorm outside, maybe your vision gets restricted. Maybe you move slower and whatnot, but you shouldn't be dying of it. If you get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
that's
shouldn't I?
that's my point. Same point goes to vehicles, in my opinion. Maybe the vehicle moves slower. Maybe I don't know. You have it's slippery and it just like just the movement is erratic or whatever. Your direction, your steering is not as well as normal or whatever. You can add a lot of effects or minuses, debuffs on them, right? But don't make them to a point where you can't use them anymore. Basically, that's what I really don't like. I think that's a horrible idea, and I think this is the reason why a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but everybody, when the weather thing in Company of Hero a company of heroes showed up, everybody would disable that in multiplayer and shit because like people didn't want to fucking bother with it. It was annoying.
Yeah, even like like auto match, like the official like finding a game has that disabled because it was an interesting mechanic when the game first came out, but it was such a niche and like a not I don't say complex, but it was a hindrance, no doubt about it, But it's just like, it just stalls the gameplay for like no real reason, Especially if at a point here where it could completely freeze your tank over and the people that are supposed to be guarding it, it's kind of like, yo, man, that's a little bit too much, ain't it? Like I feel like it's gonna suffer the same problem that Company Heroes had when they first released the second game.
Going a bit back, because I said I'm gonna start with the negatives. That's what I really don't like. What I really like on the other side, and this is what I put down screen. The next slide is how the game looks under these, right? Like
Oh, this is awesome.
it's
I don't care
awesome.
what anyone
Yeah,
said. This is beautiful. And
I
they did a
visual.
time lapse. They did a time lapse of how it looks like. Like
Yeah,
to me, the one that draws me away is the snow one because it's just. I mean, maybe it's just me. Who doesn't love snow? I mean, I'm sure you, Razor, and all of them that are like freezing up there probably hate it, but
no.
I
A
love the
bit
look
of
of it.
snow is yeah. It's yeah.
Now I don't want
It's
it
a
like.
up
Now I don't want it like whether it's
hindering
fast.
you. Exactly, you don't want it to hinder you. You want to see it, you want to feel it, you want to experience. Hell, fucking like I said, maybe it even affects you in a level where you're slower, your field of view is smaller, and so on and so forth. But that's it, right? You don't fucking die because the thermometer says you're not getting
Well,
enough fire next to you.
I don't want to pitch in, but they did say like one of the first things they did say as a disclaimer at the very first of the stream was they pointed about three things that were not going to make it in the first iteration of the update. All right, I could be wrong, but one of them was uniforms, and even the concept or not the concept, the cover art for this update has like two wardens that are dressed up in that old like scout sketch uniform. There could be a possible like winter gear for infantry to be better equipped for the snow times if I will. But it's just
Look,
again, it's all speculation, but just saying.
I would have called you a fool a week ago for thinking that, but to tell you the truth, dude, now I can really see that becoming a thing. I can really see infantry equipment becoming like not just like a change to your skin, but like a thing that you need to equip to fight in snow and stuff like that.
So what?
But-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make a joke with Logi, but you can wait. Go ahead.
what we've got to remember is for all of the problems that we're going to have with snow, it's coupled with the fact that regions that normally have snow aren't going to have it as well. So we're finally going to see our home regions, green and fertile rather than a snowy hellscape. So that's going to be something.
It's going to be a tech split between Warden winter gear or Warden summer gear.
So
And I have to choose between.
Just come back, just kind of get my 2 cents real quick. I don't see any redeeming qualities about this. The closest thing that I see that's good is flavor, right? Because the flavor on this is kind of okay. I could see that if you appreciate that kind of thing. But from a gameplay perspective, this does nothing at all to enhance gameplay or gameplay experience in any meaningful way, in my opinion. All this does is add time wasters and frustrations and excuses and just really, really bad ways to lose engagements, lose fights, or not have those fights at all. Like, I don't want to play Foxhole. Like, it's bad enough that I sometimes have to sit through the night cycle because the night cycle is too inconvenient or too disadvantageous for us to push. That's annoying. That's boring for our guys. And now I've got to have them sit around bonfires coming up with something for them to do while we wait for a snowstorm in one possible scenario. I mean, what in the world is this helping? Who asked for this? Why is this here? This is horrendous for this game in every sense of the word. And I will boldly say that now without having previewed it. This is horrendous. There's no redemptive benefit to this.
So what you're saying is everybody needs to learn Kumbaya for the camp songs.
So you have to come up with something to entertain the guys, squad leaders. You guys start doing your research now because it's your guys' job is to keep people engaged, and you're gonna have to do that while they're stuck around a campfire. So good luck. Better be quacking.
I mean, just to add to this, I'm gonna go back to my logic joke and say, Antroxon, just prepare to do 2 batch of shirts now: the summer shirts and the winter shirts. the new logistical mechanic. That's gonna be fun.
And some beautiful cargo shirts.
Yeah, but can you imagine the arguing at the fucking factory? We need summer shirts. No, we need winter shirts because we want to fight in the snow.
So something I was thinking about as well, as Kaz was talking there. This gives the devs a good little button to push if they think the war is going to a little bit too fast as well. You know what I mean? So I think that we're going to see some pretty sus weather cropping up as major offers starting for certain clans, Warden and Colonial, depending on how the wars are lasting, because I really think that they are doing everything possible in their power to extend the length of the wars to ridiculous degrees, and offering absolutely no chance of the war being over early or one side getting an advantage over the other one early, which I think should be a thing because it's
forced. It's forced. Yeah. Like we're gonna have fucking 1 week of Blizzard every war to make sure nobody pushes, and
that's what I'm saying. That's what they do. But or they could come into the office one day, take a look at the war map, and think, they've taken that region today. I don't want them taking another region, so I'm going to put a blizzard in that region, so it's really hard for them to move armor to the front and stuff like that. And that's going to become a common occurrence. I think that what you're going to find is, for instance, the day that we took Abandoned Ward in War 69, Deadlands in War 69. So you take the map, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a blizzard cropping up there. You know what I mean? So you've taken the map, all well and good, building defenses and stuff like that, but you can't move armor through the region because it's all going to get frozen on the border. That's something that nobody's talking about as well. Think about all the tanks that are going to get frozen at the border, where there's a storm in one region and that they haven't been told about, and they're crossing from another region.
Yeah, but you can just put a campfire next to them, I guess. It's just going to be annoying.
How is that fun?
I know. No, I agree it's not fun. Like, again, this is why
you think about it.
This is why I started up with the fact that although I get your point, I could have agreed to the tanks being slower because it's a fucking blizzard outside or whatever. But the fact that they get froze is idiotic to me. I'm not gonna quote it either. Like
I would say, if the tank is running and its engine's on, it shouldn't be completely frozen, right? Like
That as well. It generates its own heat if you think about it like that, right? The engine's
But if it's like
working.
completely idle and not like there's no driver, the tank is not on. I understand that being
Putting a
broken.
fire next to it, sort of a thing to first. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could work.
Although going back to
I'll,
Kaz's point, who wants that though? Like, because
well,
that's the question.
let me just bring up Maybar's statement here. The freeze mechanic is not a finished thing, and feedback is very important. This dev branch may be probably the most important dev branch we'll ever have for the game currently right now. And people need to really, I would say
I
people need to really get their hands in this dev branch and voice their opinions because this is going to be
I
a real crucial one.
I agree with all of that, but I'm gonna call it right now, and I know it's not smart to call something like this right now. I'm gonna call it right now. They're gonna stay fucking right where they are on the points, unless for some miracle, the circle followers that agree with every word they say are gonna somehow protest it in any way, and maybe then they're gonna give it another look around. But I
And it
doubt
really
it.
sucks because those are the ones that don't play the game nearly as consistent at all. It's just
Yeah,
like
and
those are the ones they rather
I
hear like
I see
compliments.
it. I see it going away, but only after like 3 or 4 wars of suffering, in which people are going to be miserable, and everybody's going to hopefully put a united front, saying, we're done with this shit. We don't want to fucking build bonfires every 10 meters. we have a lot. We have a lot of shit to fucking deal with. We don't need this as well.
If this is according to my worst nightmares, that you will not be seeing me playing Foxhole. Because there's no way that I'm going to put myself through this bullshit. I'm just going to
It'll
put it
be
out there right now.
Dog game for sure.
Right. On that optimistical note, let's continue to Mr. Dark's bread and butter.
Oh, yes. So just to put a disclaimer, a couple of months past, I came up to a Zero Dark Press Corps with Mark and proposed to him my arty rework changes. And from everything we heard about the arty revamp, like I'm not even upset that that they did any recognition or say anything or at least tell me that we were working on some things because some people pointed out the way that I was responded to when I first proposed it was kind of like brushed off like yeah, we have other things we're worried about when everything they come out in this revamp was like pretty much almost exactly the same for what was pretty much pitched out. And overall, I am absolutely in love with the changes because it's definitely things that I feel like would make my enjoyment of Artie a lot better. And this is just perfect for me. I could finally sit down and have it watch this conga line of shells being fired and just like relax because now the accuracy is essentially out the window now. Now it's just mass shock and awe, and like there are some dual edge things that they like as far as destruction of cities, you can completely level them to a point where nothing is buildable. The current storm cannon meta, which is really scary too when you go to think about it. We like I would have said at the beginning, if this update was in last war, we would have lost completely because we still have some current issues with storm cannons, and to add this on top with that, it's kind of frightening though. And it's like not saying there is such thing as too much artillery, but there's going to be a lot and a lot of DACA coming out. And it's going to be rough for at least for. I mean, I feel sad for the infantry boys, and even to an extent now, like even armor, like so far they've gotten no love, and it's just. I'm sorry. Right now, I'm sorry for you boys, but I'm happy.
This will be really interesting. It's like this change I'm actually really curious about because this has potential to be good. It also has the potential, I think, to set us back a little bit, only because if we are looking at an environment where I agree it would be nice for Artie to be less accurate and to kind of have fire superiority work a little differently, it's going to be a continued buff to the Amish strategy where you can't concentrate fire on a target you need to destroy. The Amish just going to rebuild while you brain unbelievable amounts of DACA down there And if you can't concentrate it properly, how are you supposed to get anything done? That's one thing I'm really concerned about here.
And you are right 100% with that, because this whole revamp was to be paralleled with the there has to be some building balances. Like, you can't build or repair structures while they're under fire, and these are two things that need to be, like, these two things are a marriage. They have to be together. They can't just be one left with another, because we end up like right here, like, exactly, we're losing the accuracy. But if you can destroy something and just have it, like, let's just say bunkers, and essentially rebuild it, then we're kind of left in a,
I'm not even confident you'll be able to destroy it. Can you put enough fire in one location? Like, it depends on the shell values, right? But can you get enough concentrated fire to destroy it before they can out repair it just with 3 guys of BMATs?
I believe the damage power are being increased. I think, like, think of the normal Howie.
Yeah.
That's no longer going to be the damage like that. They're going to be a little more hard hitting than, because essentially they got rid of the Howie and they replaced the shell with the light arty gun, like the gunboat. That's the damage of that, and that's already a hard hitting shell. But I think they're going to have the AOE spread of Howies.
I'll tell you guys what I'm telling you guys what I'm at least hoping for. I'm hoping for, if you can line up, like, let's say 3 of these guns and, like, maintain a barrage of, let's say 20-30 minutes with 2 or 3 guns on an area, on a town, on whatever. That should have enough, like, spread to, keep the Amish so busy that you could potentially assault the town while you do this, Kaz, if you get what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, that's an interesting idea.
These things are pounding the town, so much manpower is put into trying to keep everything that's getting hit together, that the force that's actually assaulting the town can progress, right? And then the bombardment can roll up with the progress, right? Okay, we pushed a few meters in, push the guns a bit more, like add a bit more range to the guns and so on and so forth. But there are problems I instantly see with this. One of them being the loading of shells. And the devs have confirmed on Zero Dark yesterday that the bunker building that allows you to fastly stock shells and replenish the shells to the guns is only concrete. So you're gonna have no tier 2 option for it.
Well,
so what that means is until you unlock concrete and you have these bunkers and shit, you need to carry those shells. Well, again, not saying that that's necessarily going to be a problem from us, because if that's the winning strategy, we're just going to assign more and more people.
Shells, yeah.
Exactly, but just pointing that out.
I'm actually in love with that they took this core thing, because it's the one thing I really liked about the Storm Cannon, is that it's probably the most down to earth. Like, you feel like you're actually firing an artillery gun.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of multiple parts that make it feel engaging, and that's the one thing I love. The person's carrying the shell, he loads it in, the gunner reloads the gun, and they fire. And it just, that type of stuff is it all stitches together to build the whole artillery experience. While before we just had a Howie filled with like 80 shells, and the guy's just firing consistently. Like, it's like, okay, keeps going. But the other issue was, what if you hopped off that Howie and a random just goes in, starts unloading 20 shells? At least here, and what I'm thinking, he at most has 1 shot to fire, and he'll probably go fuck off somewhere else.
Right, it's too much of a commitment.
I'm happy that one thing is fixed. 2, it's gonna feel a lot more engaging for everyone involved of it. Like to me, this is how not friendships are built, but how people with experiences can develop stories and whatnot, just from like loading shells and whatnot. Like, I don't know, this is me, and this is what I'm absolutely in love with this change.
I mean, I don't mean to like burst your hype bubble on this, Dark, but if these things can only be built in concrete, and they have, let's say, I think that what can they be built in? So they can be put in anything.
Yeah, it's just like the They're in placement. They're in placement.
That's not bad. That's not bad then. If I just thought if they could only be put in concrete, then it
Yeah,
would
it'd
be
be tough.
a huge problem because you're not going to be able to bombard a town even from 300 meters out with concrete. You know what I mean?
No.
They're going to be shooting your concrete way before you even place an artillery gun in it. The thing for loading shells, I can see why they made it concrete because they want that advantage to be on the defensive faction. You know what I mean? It's all tactics to basically prolong the war, in my opinion. Like they're happy to implement this because it's just another thing that's going to prolong the war. You think about the meta since we started at least since I started playing the game, the standard doctrine for attacking a town was destroy enough defenses until you can sneak an artillery gun close enough to the town hall and destroy it. That has been our thing since day one, in my opinion, and this changes that. So
Yep.
that fundamental thing, that fundamental doctrine that everybody has used since day one of playing Foxhole no longer applies. Artillery can no longer be relied on to solely clear threats. It's going to have to be going to rely even more on player agency, and player agency is something that I want to briefly talk about as well, because they're relying a hell of a lot more on it when the game's population isn't exactly improving or getting better. You know what I mean? A lot of the older experienced people are done with it. You know, and the problems that you're going to introduce with, it's cool as fuck that you can pound a town into oblivion, but once you've pounded a town into oblivion, that front is then, it's open. That's obviously by design, so that requires more people to sit around in that husk town defending it from partisans that might have snuck past the line or whatever. You know what I mean? It's going to be incredibly difficult to defend those regions when towns have been destroyed, because people don't want to sit around doing anything waiting for the enemy to show up. They want to go to a bridge battle and fight, but they're relying on player agency to be like, right, that's been destroyed, we can no longer defend that place, we should have a garrison there that just sits around watching YouTube videos until something turns up on the radio tower. You know what I mean? It doesn't work, especially if a town is on a major logi route, and let's just say that in the war that's just happened, we defend Kirknell, but it gets obliterated, and we can no longer defend that place, but we managed to push the Colonials back. The Colonials still have a large area of one of our backline regions that has no defenses in it. You know what I mean? There's no way of and if they get a spawn nearby, they can flood those urban environments with infantry, with these new anti-tank launchers that are just going to just annihilate Logi, en masse. You know what I mean? So I can see what they're going for with it, and it's all, aiming towards lengthening the Foxhole wars. Pretty much everything in the update is towards that goal, in my opinion.
But I don't again, it's not being done through ways that are fun and engaging. It's my issue. These are time wasters. Go ahead, Dirk.
Well, on the regards of sieging the town, I feel like it adds complexity to the strategy of what's the plan? Are we leveling the town to the ground, or do we think we can pull off another approach because again, if you siege the town to nothing, it puts the new owners at a disadvantage. Essentially, now that town is a lot easier to handle because we've already done the work of destroying everything. Or again, to me, it gives some options, even though it could just be they're not viable because the work to take a town without annihilating it is probably a little too much work.
Now, to be clear, we're only talking about garrison houses. Those are the only structures that have been confirmed permanently destroyable, as I understand it, unless somebody can correct me there.
Town halls can as well.
I didn't think town halls or factories were included in that.
Yep. You can pretty much.
I don't think town halls are, because if they do that, then
No.
it's just
The town halls and all of the logistical buildings do not get permanently ruined, they are looking at maybe introducing it in the future, but according to KFC, they have too much anxiety over how things are gonna go with us being able to destroy the garrison houses and maybe the safe houses. They didn't confirm 100% if you can ruin the safe houses.
I would completely ruin. Like, this is just my 2 cents on this. It's like you just have like cities being destroyed consistently, and like wars will even be the opposite. Wars will be ended so fast just from like shilling town halls. Because essentially, if you take the town hall, if you remove that ability for the, because all you have to do is shell the town hall, and everything else can't be built. Like, you could just
Yep.
destroy it normally, and that is it for that town. That town, and if it's a capital, like a victory condition town, again, it's only going to be like whoever shells the most towns wins.
Yeah, but I just feel like they're well, again, we're just gonna see it on garrison houses for now, but their arc here is the stupid amount of bombarding you're gonna need to do. Like, I'm sure you guys
Right.
think it's gonna be a lot, but I would just like expand that a lot by probably 5 times or 10 times, and then you're gonna get the actual number of sharing you're gonna need
Right.
to actually.
And it's only with the end game versions of artillery, the heavy artillery category. Those are the ones that have the destructive power, because they are introducing light
yes,
artillery.
yes, light artillery, at least for wardens, are on screen now. From what they said, the light ones are also gonna do some damage in that sense, but way less than than the heavy artillery.
Yeah.
So
they're
theoretically,
doing-
you'll yeah.
What they're doing is they completely removed the concept of a Howie, and they put the current FA, mixed it in with that in a bit, like with the main damage value of the gunboat. It's a pretty hard hitting shell, but they gave it the benefits of the spread and AOE of a Howie.
Also, a very important note, sorry, Dark, is that this artillery only for wardens is gonna get airburst shells. They're not ready for this update, but they're gonna be coming in the next one.
Cool. So you're going to be able to, you're going to be showering the enemy trenches and shrapnel, clearing them out for your infantry pushing. That's I suppose that'd be pretty cool.
First, I was kind of like, maybe because of my own ignorance, not really knowing what airburst shells were, because I feel like, well, isn't HE like you get what I mean, like a large radius Howie shell, essentially supposed to do the job like an airburst shell. But the more I read into it, the more like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, you can get people in trenches in that hole. Like, there is no such thing as, if you're in open cover or if you have nothing above you, you'll be hit. So this could be very good against like the open top vehicles and whatnot.
Yeah, right.
So from the concept that I've told and pitched to them is similar to Company of Heroes, where the closer you dial the range to you and the artillery gun, or the target and the artillery gun, the more accurate it will be. There's no such thing as 100% accuracy, but you'll be more accurate versus you firing at max range. So essentially, like, let's just say, for example, you fire at 100 meters that we're all known and used to. That's going to be a lot more accurate versus you firing at the max 250. Like, you'll be hitting at like almost 3 different targets you didn't even mean to hit.
Razor, can you do a quick mic check for the stream?
Yeah, I think it was just Discord dying for a second there. I think we're good now from what chat is saying. Yeah, so I think the only part you missed was the one I was saying that according to the devs, this should be at a max of 250, if I'm not mistaken, right now. And right, with the mention that 250 is going to be the most inaccurate distance for it. So if you have it closer, like 100 meters or whatever, it's going to be more accurate on what you're trying to fire. And I think most of what Dark said they could hear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I tuned
that's
in. I
just
could hear
one
all
thing.
thing. I heard everything Dark said.
And just a little thing, like I know I'm very passionate about this, and I'm like I know like maybe half the crew here may be upset or worried about the upcoming things, but maybe it's just my job became a lot more enjoyable, and I'm just a little more excited compared to.
Fully understand why you're so excited about this update, dude. You've been waiting for this for years. You know what I mean? I completely get what you're saying. It's just a little bit scary to everybody else because it's going to fundamentally change how we play the game.
Yeah.
We can no longer rely on you to basically win the fucking game for us. You know what I mean?
I love this already change. I'm with you, Dark. I love what the spirit of this already change. But as we said very early on, the core problems that make this game unfun are only amplified with these changes in absence of other solutions. That's my concern. It's got nothing to do with the fact that this is to the good, so much as the ignoring the core problems are to the bad.
Well, I'm finally happy to be unemployed now. I can no longer be relied on. I can just chill, just enjoy, and just like, oh, you missed. There's nothing we could do about it, mate. We'll hit it eventually.
Can they didn't specify minimum range, but I do think 75 probably is going to be maintained as the minimum range, basically. So, Dark, you want to take us over the colonial one? From what I understand, this is going to have 50 meters less range, so it should be around 200 meters. And it's pushable.
They repurposed the Colonial FA into a pushable version of what is essentially the new light artillery class. So just similar to like the Wardens emplaced, light artillery gun, the Colonials get a pushable version of it, which might have a little shorter range. And I believe I'm not too sure on its reload mechanics. It could just be the same as a normal.
No, they
how an
confirmed.
FA works.
No. They
it's one?
confirmed it's one at a time. All RT guns are being loaded one shell at a time.
Ah, beautiful.
But I think that's going to be a bit jank for them to use, to tell you the truth, because when you think about it, it's got a 200 meter range, but if it's anything like ours, the 200 meter range is going to be extremely inaccurate. So they're going to have to push it into at least 150. You know what I mean? And then our guns are going to be accurate. They're going to have to bring shells up to this thing. You know what I mean? It's going to be a ball ache for them to use, and I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as good as ours are emplacements. You're going to have 10 of these things, pushed up and firing to have any.
Yeah. I mean, mobility shouldn't be underestimated, and I think these things likely will be covered by the fog of war because they're going to be field equipment.
True.
That's true. That's one thing to give the benefit is that it will be hidden versus, but also too, the new emplacements for wardens as well will be fog of war protected as well. Just like how you can hide an AT gun behind a wall of sandbags. We might have that luxury for these new artillery pieces as well.
It's the big circle though that's sending up puffs of smoke, dude.
Yeah, that's
apart
a thing, but it's harder to spot it. And if you know how to counter it, like the way we would cover our mortars when we would do mass mortars, I would deploy like a 100-meter line of smoke, and then start firing the mortars from somewhere inside of that smoke. And even if the enemy knows you're somewhere in those 100 meters, they don't know where exactly. So that's still.
Now, one thing to add to that as a side piece, I don't know if you guys caught it. They said the same effects are going to happen with the mortar as well. So the mortar most likely may be inaccurate at its new max or its old max range.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that's on my end that gets countered by mortars.
I don't think they should have changed the mortar, to tell you the truth. I think the mortar should have remained, at least to see how things play out. I think if the mortar remained as it was, and we still had the ability to take out like tier 2 bunker rifle garrisons and shit with it, it wouldn't be too bad.
Well,
the colonial mortar hard track is going to be next to fucking useless now.
It depends on the spread though, because they just said the spread is going to be bigger, but it's not necessarily going to be as big as for the RT guns.
With it. Can you still hit a 2x3 bunker with it? It just depends on the spread, yeah.
That's all a thing of spread. Let's go to the big boy heaters here, Mr. Dark.
Yeah, so now we get the Warden heavy artillery. Pretty much almost the same thing as the light version, but this one's a bigger Daka with a lot more range. And this one has the added bonus of they can completely destroy town structures. So any garrison house that gets faced up on this bad boy can no longer be rebuilt if it's been destroyed long enough, right? Like you fire enough Daka at a building, and it won't be able to be rebuilt because the amount of artillery fire.
Yeah, but the important thing to note here is they stressed it has to be a very significant,
large amount
of shells, like probably hours of bombarding.
We don't know the numbers or the hard numbers, how long it takes for it, because it could just be something like, we're speculating like what, like three, just saying like it has to be like a full IRL day of shelling to pretty much get that, or it could just be like like 2 Foxhole days. We don't know the length of it until we get down and get to see it for ourselves. But that's still something to to be cautious for.
I'll keep trying to move it because we've been going for a while now. This is basically the colonial one. I'll give it over to you. Only important part to specify from my point of view is the extra range this gets. Like according,
so this gets 50 more meters of extra range. It's pretty much identically the same. The only difference is, I guess they were real proud of the nickname they had for it.
So shit. I was just gonna say, what a shit name for a fucking artillery gun. Fuck me.
That's all right. Ours is called the Basilisk.
But it says it has a really cool nickname, Avidus. It says it right here on the slide.
I glanced at it and I thought it was called the Trebuchet, and I could have got behind that. You know what I mean? But fucking Thunderbolt, shit.
So much negativity, Mr. Evans.
Well,
he's got to catch up to me. He's got to sprint away.
Go back to the Warden version of it, because it literally looks like a Basilisk, dude. Like, turn it to the side and like that whole thing is just like that is the Imperial Guard artillery gun right there.
Totally.
And I'm ecstatic about that look. I love that. It looks so beautiful to me. But
what's the actual name? The Huber Exalt.
Yes, it's an Exalt.
Okay.
You literally get shot by this and you instantly exalt.
Well, we'll just refer to it as a Basilisk, because I think that's the best thing we can do here.
God, if they add a Commissar skin and I get to lead a bayonet charge into combat, I will die a happy man. Okay, so let's just put it out there.
Because we can't rely on them to give the Wardens cool name stuff, so we'll have to do it ourselves. But going back to this again, it's pretty much the same thing, but with the addition with the artillery update is the addition of No Man's Land. Now with the heavy artillery guns, like, players can permanently change the world, and what they meant by that is artillery bombardments can create craters, can ruin and destroy trees, can ruin the terrain,
churn up the soil and shit. I have to say that, like, this can't be seen any other way than super fucking cool. You know what I mean? The only problem with that I have, that, like, they're gonna get sued for copyright, motherfuckers, taking our fucking podcast name, using it for a segment.
No shout out even.
But like, jokes aside, this is absolutely amazing for me. Like, I'm not such a supporter of permanent destruction of garrison houses and stuff like that, but like, honestly, let's put our differences aside for one war and let's just annihilate Umbral Wildwood for all of the shit that it's given both factions over the fucking years. Let's just annihilate it, okay? Before we even start fighting. Let's get rid of every single tree, burn that shit to the ground. Okay, I'm starting the movement now.
You can get rid of the trees, but the bushes remain. Bushes aren't mentioned here. We can only destroy trees. Sorry, guys.
Well, maybe we can take a storm cannon to them.
We're just gonna put a tripod in each bush so nobody can use them.
There you go.
So what about and this is for both of you, Kaz and Avidus, on this. Adds craters to the ground. Like, tell me, like, what are your open thoughts about? Like, you pretty much your open field battle could essentially have potholes to use to your benefit or even against you.
I think it's going to be necessary for the. This is like the. So this is all part of the gradual thing that they're going for. They're going for static front lines that last for a long time, and then eventually you get a push that goes across and breaks through or whatever. This is a necessary thing for that. Okay, so after days and days of bombardment, you're not getting anywhere. Finally, you have that one crater that opens up that's just in range of that one rifle garrison that's giving you a lot of shit to get in HE range or something like that. I think that's what they're going for and how it's going to work.
But you know what?
Aesthetically, though, it's like fucking 5-star Gordon Ramsay.
I just thought of something right now, and Kaz, I don't know how you may feel about this, but if they implement this right, if you destroy a bunker complex and you just got lucky to get a crater to spawn, I don't think they can Amish build that that location no more, because essentially the crater could prevent them from rebuilding that.
So as I understand it, this is from the heavy bombardment ? And only the heavy bombardment.
Seems.
I think it's any artillery.
So I think
artillery can do this.
But the mention is that the light one is gonna take absurd amount of shells to achieve it. Like I think it's just way more viable for the heavy one to get there easily, while the light one is gonna be a lot of shells to get.
What I would love to see is in these areas it not being buildable. I think that would be a really good thing. Maybe you can build a trench, a level 1 trench in there, and that's it, or some sandbags or something like that. But that's as far as it should go, really. Shouldn't get any further than that. Like, stuff should be banned from the areas that, like, if this is an actual area in the war, anywhere where the snow isn't on it, or the trees are burnt to ash, you shouldn't be able to build anything other than maybe stretch level 1 trenches and minimum sandbags, barbed wire, that sort of thing.
No, I'm generally speaking, this doesn't create any issues for me. It just, again, it's hard to visualize because we haven't really contended with it before. And if we improperly deny the rebuilding efforts, and see things move and change, yeah, that could be cool. I could see that.
I will say that the one time where we find ourselves in a town that's been completely decimated by artillery fire, it's going to be good infantry combat, Kaz. Can you see that? It's going to be cool infantry combat, I'll have to say that. But other than that, it's going to be a bit fucking brutal.
That's one thing this game has always never had, and possibly until the next update, is that feeling of going into like a town and the buildings are destroyed, but they've always had like AI garrisons just there fucking with you, so you can never really feel not safe, but like you always felt like, oh, I can't wander around. There's gonna be a garrison house that fucks me somewhere.
I've always wanted a nuke to go off an abandoned ward like mid-war, so it's just turned into like an infantry zone where there's just nothing that can be built there, and it's just infantry combat in abandoned ward. That would be sick to see, because the when you get those, it's very, very rare where you get extended like combat in a city. It's normally just like artillery the shit out of all the defenses, then push in and destroy the remnants of what remain, the people that have not managed to retreat, or stuck around to hold the last defense, and they're stuck in a couple of foxholes or garrison houses or something like that. But ultimately those go down in 5 minutes and you take the town. What I love to see is fights like we had in Blemish, a couple of years ago, where it was just like it lasted for hours, and it was street to street, and it was house to house, and that type of shit is absolutely sick. I do see that those types of fights are going to become more common with this sort of thing. My only concern is like with you not being able to build any defenses, how far away the spawn's going to be, and what's the combat going to feel like in those situations. But we'll have to play that to see that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the few times that I had fun playing recently was just a couple wars back when we were in the early war fighting in Abandoned Ward, and it was before the safe houses had been unlocked as tech, and so they couldn't be built. And we were just fighting in Plaza and across the bridges, and it was tempered a little bit by gas spam because we apparently don't have enough brains to have gas masks, but can have gas everywhere. So that was the least fun part of it. But in spite of that, it was still fun maneuvering through the town and fighting angles. The emplacement machine guns were there, and we had to gas those off or flank them or stuff like that. But it was a lot of infantry on infantry fun, and there wasn't. But what wasn't there bunkers. You know what I mean? That's what was missing, was bunkers to the whole equation. And it made it a lot more enjoyable to play and maneuver, and you had options and both sides of the fight. And I saw some of the Colonials complaining about it because they had to actively defend it as opposed to just hiding behind defenses. I'm like, well, good. You know, that's the way that was fun. You know, you don't see a whole heck of a lot of that right now.
Right, I still guys have a bit of energy left because we're going in the vehicles now, and we're gonna be starting.
I want to finish.
I
want to finish this last thing. Remember, I said probably one of the last things. The next pushable vehicle, the next pushable thing, the next gun was gonna be like a Howie for the Colonials. Fucking called it.
Close enough.
Fucking called it. All right, go. You can go take this. Right here. This is your department.
The one good wheelchair. Yeah, so this is the new chassis. So you're gonna be seeing this. I don't want to say model of tank, but this silhouette of the tank a lot more often from now on. And it's basically your standard spam tank according to them from now on, because it can be mass produced, and the Colonials are going to get 5 of this on each crate they mass produce. So you're going to see these things everywhere basically once they unlocked. And I know a lot of people sort of kind of went on, oh my god, like Colonials are getting so many vehicles or whatever. Like Colonials already had so many vehicles. Like this changes nothing. If you ask me, changes absolute nothing for me. This tank.
They were replacing light tank destroyer, or they were fielding out light tank destroyers like they were nothing.
Exactly.
Those replaced light tanks before anything else.
The most indicative fight was the one we had in Reaching at the end of the war, and even though we were like in the process of winning the war and their morale was down and shit, they were still outnumbering our armor mostly all of the time with huge spams of vehicles. So this is just
the only thing that worries me about this is it's a medium tank. So this en masse is going to be obviously.
I'll stop you right there, and I'll tell you why. I don't have the video on hand, but there was this discussion on Zero Dark yesterday on which KFC was discussing exactly this, like how we worry about classes and we're making these categories for tanks and shit, and how their objective is to blur these lines. So basically in short talk, doesn't mean anything that it's a medium tank, at least in their conception. Like they don't build it as a medium tank, don't expect medium tank stats on it, nothing like that.
I'm just thinking with this, like I this more than anything else, you're really seeing that aesthetic of sort of, they're really going for the Eastern Front feel where, we've got the big bulky Tigers, which are the what's it called? Not storm tanks.
Silverhands.
Silverhands. We've got the bulky Tigers, which are the Silverhands that are more rare, and they've got these mass-produced shit, but there's more of them. You know what I mean? And I think it's I think it looks like a decent little tank. I think it's gonna I think it's gonna perform its role well, which is dying en masse. So.
Exactly. Because like the point is, I don't understand what this brings new. To be honest, a spammable tank Colonials already had. I understand they needed a reason to introduce this new chassis so they can build more variety on it, but they should have just put in a AA gun on it, or what I mean, like something else, a new that can achieve a role.
The scary thing about this new tank is that it even says it on its description. The chassis they have it is a versatile. Like this is like the Colonials are fine with this print for their, and I say medium tanks because there's no way around it. Like this is going to be a medium tank chassis for a lot of the designs of whatever they do. This is going to be superior to a light tank because it's going to have stronger stats of it. It would be dumb not to replace these to make it a little more tankier than a light tank.
Yeah, but like look at our light tanks and our Silverhands. Do you find the Silverhand way more resistant than the light tank? Because I don't. I generally find it
maybe
as squishy.
I feel like I feel like the silver hand could take a little more damage versus the light tank.
But
Maybe
my point is that margin is in the ballpark of maybe a shot or two more. That's it. No.
Find yourself in a situation where you're going to die in a tank, it tends to be the same whether you're in a silver hand or a light tank.
Exactly.
So, like, yeah, the silver hand can take more punishment, but it doesn't really matter if you get flanked by 3 light tanks. You know what I mean? And the same
But
applies.
you could say that with any vehicle, though. Just like if you're out there.
Well, with battle tanks, it would have been different if you put it like that. My point is, there's
now I won't argue for the sake of it, but I see what you're coming from.
No, like I'm telling you, I've been doing silver hands constantly, and their survivability thing is mostly because I'm looking at this tank. You see that engine block that is really sticking out on the back. This is going to be similar to a silver hand in proportions. So it's going to be really easy to hit its tracks, hit its engine. It's going to be really hard to turn it because it's a long tank. You'll see what I mean when you're actually driving it.
I think what we're like, see, we only think about this of how much of it's going to be a threat to us, but like, yeah, it's not going to be much of a threat to us because we can deal with it. But when 5 of these things are shown up to a front of randoms, the demoralization effect that's going to have on our randoms is,
I mean, you already have that with the current strategies of spam the colonies are using. I'm not saying it's not going to be used or not going to be good. I'm just saying it's nothing new. It brings literally nothing new to the table. That's all I'm saying.
Well, my worry for this is, what's the purpose of the old colonial light tank? You get me? Like, this is essentially supposed to replace that version of it. Like, to me, it feels like there's no point of building a light tank when you could just build this instead.
Yeah, sort of. Well, you're gonna have to build the light tanks while they are unlocked first.
Well, I mean, of course on that, but it's like one of the things when they first unlocked the tank destroyer, they were just like, why build a tank when you could just build an LTD? It does the same thing, if not,
Not really, because the LTD needs something in front of it. So this is basically the thing in front of the LTD. That's basically this thing's role, right?
Yeah,
this is the meat shield.
Yeah, that's the chaff that you're going to put in front of your LTDs that are just going to absorb most of the shit.
That's basically the game plan here. The thing is, the LTs were already doing this. This is probably, hopefully, from the devs' perspective, going to do a better job than the LTs. But in my personal opinion, and I know it's going to get scrutinized, the problem with the LTs wasn't necessarily that they were squishy in front of the LTDs, but their crews were generally the problem. And their crews are going to be the problem on these things as well. Just because the tank is a bit bigger, that doesn't give you better crews in them, right? So this is why I feel like, in general, things are going to stay the same, at least in my opinion, as long as this.
Again, on player agency to make these things effective.
Don't get me wrong, if you get competent crew in a line of these, I'm sure they can perform really, really well. I'm convinced of that, but I don't see that being done a lot.
Well, you see them in 1s and 2s getting manned by like corporals
or you'll see them in huge blobs of like 6 or 7 of them, but there's no real thought put into how they operate. They just operate like a nomadic tribe, basically.
Yeah. Kill the fuel truck and the rest starves to death.
Exactly, and they all go forward. Nobody's checking the back, nobody's checking their flanks. You hit them with a wave of infantry and like 2 light tanks, and you destroy 3 of them. Back up, come back in, take the rest down. That's how the general happens with this sort of thing, in my opinion, at least. But nevertheless, like Dark said, it's a good frontline tank, right? The frontline medium potato.
Yeah, it's just it's frustrating that they can't just accept how life works, and it's like you can't just blur the line between like you can't just say, oh yeah, there's no such thing as a medium tank, guys. It's its own thing. It's called the assault class. Like, come on, mate. It's like
yeah, no, yeah. Heartbreaking, but yeah, let's keep the ball going. Yeah. So ignore the screen. This is called the tea kettle tank. Okay, just making sure everybody knows that.
No, this is a beautiful thing. I absolutely in love with this. This
I
is
don't
like
mind it.
all.
I like it personally. The teapot. I like Goots one.
Yeah, and it's also a game changer tank. Let me see, because Dark already sent me the video. So we can,
That was the other. Tank. Oh, yeah, I sent you the video of the other one. Of
yeah,
the teapot.
because so we can watch it. Let me see, you guys. You guys say what you think about it until I send this.
Well,
Don't both of you have to send that.
it's a lot more agile than it presents to be. It's an actual very quick tank, and it's kind of what armor really needs, is a fast moving vehicle. Like in a weird way, it kind of like replaces the armored car because this does everything an armored car is supposed to do.
Yeah, I think I mean, this is going to be excellent at anti-partisan because I believe it even works when regions are frozen as well. So this is going to be excellent for, when all of the colonial tanks are frozen and they can't have any armored support. We can pull this thing out of the woodwork. You know what I mean, to deal with infantry and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be great. But the only thing about it is you've got to couple with this with the fact that all of the partisans are going to be running around with light support anti-tank weapons that can track this thing. You know what I mean? It's relatively fast.
Right. I mean, I think
Looks
maybe.
cool. Looks cool as fuck.
Here we go. We have a video of this in action.
Yeah, I like that. I like the antenna on the top as well. So it gets radio coverage while it's moving as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
So
This is
coverage. This is going to be great for supporting tank and battalions and stuff like that.
Ugh, dude.
Yeah, I like its laser point accuracy on the gun there. That's gonna be a really nice. And the permanent scouting thing is incredible, because like think about how much that counts when you're when you're doing stuff in general. Even with the jeeps, always having to stop the jeep and shit. Now you can have you can have the. Yeah, and you can have the gunner just sit on the map looking at the radio, for example, because you don't really need the gunner actively. You can just yell at them when there's something to shoot, right? It's an excellent scout vehicle. I'm very happy with it. Of course, easy to counter still, especially because of all the new anti-tank weapons. Like a fast open top colonial jeep can just like flank it, and 3 people can jump out with Panzer Shreks out of the jeep and just, you get what I'm saying, like just shred it. So there's gonna be a lot of tactics to counter it, but really cool vehicle overall.
Yep, looking forward to using that one.
And the last star of the show.
There she is. So I mean, this thing, I'm going to say that it's going to have its uses, but I don't think it's going to be as effective as people think it's going to be. Like, people think this is our answer to the mortar half track. It isn't our answer to the mortar half track. The mortar half track is going to be pretty much as useless as this thing now, or useful in some degrees. But compared to how it used to be, the mortar half track, for the time in which it was present during this, before the update came out, was extremely powerful. Now I think that these 2 vehicles are going to be put into a decent class. You know what I mean? Like they're going to find their role pretty well. So the tank, it's obviously going to be pretty slow and stuff like that, but it's going to give excellent armored protection for mortar crews. So I think this is going to be used more as anti-infantry, more than anti-structure, in my opinion. But then again, because it's armored, it can get a lot closer to the enemy front line, so it can have accurate mortar fire, whereas a normal mortar team wouldn't be able to achieve that accuracy because they can't get as close as this thing can. So we'll have to see how it progresses. I'm told that it can hold less shells as well, which would make sense.
I mean, I feel like the whole burden of the mortar half track wasn't about the vehicle itself. It's about the placement and of how early you can get this vehicle. You know, like they were guilty on them for placing the colonial half track like early late game. Like they could get prototypes and absolutely do damage of it. And it's fine and all that we finally get a version of a mortarized mortar, but like is it really going to fix anything when it's like, let's just say for example, like let's just say it's just paired with light tanks, get a light tank or get the mortar light tank. At that point the colonial mortar half track is already available a lot sooner. It's already going to do its damage, and it's one of those things where by the time it comes out, it's like, well, it's already too late. I mean, we still don't have anything to deal with it. The fact that it's a more higher HP pool, it will be used in different scenarios, like I've just said. Like it can do things that the other couldn't, but to me, it doesn't really solve the problem that we have with the mortar half track.
Um, I'm just gonna address something in chat real quick. Further, I'm not sure exactly from what Avita said you're referring to, but the general gist of what he was saying at least was referring to new players having a hard time using tanks. That's not some sort of, considering them stupid for it or anything else. It's just that's a natural thing that occurs in games, especially in games like with a huge
When
learning curve like this.
Something you're bad, aren't you? When you're new at something, you're bad, so you need practice before you get good.
That doesn't mean like, anybody's hating on them. Quite the opposite. We're generally trying to help them if we can and try to give them tips where we can. But sometimes at the same point, I will not shy from recognizing there's some frustration involved. As in with all things, like people that are better than us at some shit get frustrated with us when we don't know how to do it properly because for them it seems easy. That applies in everything, including video games, right? But that doesn't really mean anybody's taking it out on them. It's a normal step, and we all have been there in a point or another.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're 100% right on that. We've all been in that place before where we just don't know, and it's just one of those things. Making it easier for that new player. It's just more the better. So that way, if they can easily, I don't want to say hop on and know what you're doing. Something that takes time and skill is in a good and reachable way is probably the best for me.
And player retention on Foxhole has always been a massive issue. And it has been largely to do with the community at some stages, but I think now it's more to do with the game, to tell you the truth. And hopefully with the regiment system that will improve, and we can keep a lot more players when they get invited to clans and stuff like that, or get to play with a group of people rather than on their own, not knowing what they're doing. People will actually be able to make squads like calling squads like tutorial squads and stuff like that, and that's going to be a massive improvement for people coming onto the game.
Oh, there's definitely going to be stuff like that because I know of a lot of individual players and even groups that focus hard on trying to help new players and try and teaching them the game. So that's going to be a huge tool for people that are looking to do that. Right. So we've been going for a long, long time. I was hoping we can talk a bit about Zero Dark as well. But
I think we can leave that time.
I'll just play a very short clip. I'll probably ask you guys for like a small sentence each, and then we're just gonna wrap it up. Okay?
Yeah, no worries.
Just because I had the clip, and I think it's an interesting one. Deserves a fast look before we end the day, so sort of a thing.
Based on what you just said,
So I'll set it up really, really quick here.
All right.
So let me ask the devs based on what you just said. Let me ask the devs: is that a feature? The fact that someone feels like I have to choose between mining, producing, holding the line, and or transporting, like the fact that they have to make those decisions and feel pressured or whatever, is that a feature? Is that a design intention?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's. I mean, the game, like it's, the game is made, obviously um, for lots of players to work to work together, right? It's not like if you could do it multiple things on your own too easily. It's obviously clear that works against that, right? So, I mean, this is just the reality of making this type of a game, right? And there's no.
So
So I'll add some very fast context here. The clip refers to Zach basically talking about how you're put in a position where you have to pick between scrapping the nodes. Nobody's doing that, and basically not scrapping the node means another node is not going to spawn in, and the faction is basically losing more and more supplies. And then Joffrey tries to sort out the issue by by asking, is this design, or is it just not something designed? The answer is, I think so. I don't know how you guys look at this thing. For me, it kills me slowly inside when I hear them say something like that. Like, I think it feels wrong on so many levels to receive an answer like that on a question like that as well.
Yeah, it's pretty standard by this point, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but I feel like if we get used to it, then it's even worse. If we get used to this being the norm.
But we kind of are, though. Like, being honest with you, it's like, I'm not shocked when they say things like that. Like, it doesn't bother me anymore, but that's the norm already, Like,
what I think they should say in that context is be like, I don't know that answer, but I will PM you on Discord later on with one, and or whatever. You know what I mean?
and that's always like a good thing to do. There's no shame.
I think that Discord died there for a second, guys. Just so you know.
There's no shame in what, Doug?
There's no shame in saying, I can't answer that right now.
Oh no, not.
Or maybe just say it's complicated. It's not as simple as.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying something of that sort. You don't have to give us to me, you don't have to give us a half-baked answer or response, saying, yeah, I think that's the way it's supposed to go. Like, you can't just respond like that, because it's in a form of professionalism. It's not professional to be like, yeah, I think that's how we intended it. It's like, what do you mean you think that's how you intended it? Is it?
It's either yes or it is not. Yeah, especially on something, on a question like that, where you're being asked, did you intend to do this or not? You can say, I think I might have intended to do it like that, but I can't really. Oh god.
Why everything's treated like a CIA, secret mission. You know what I mean?
Exactly, like everything needs to be so, like, you can just simply say, well, we didn't think about it like that, right? That's the answer I wanted there, if anything, right? We didn't think about it like that. We thought about it. You guys need resources. We'll make them spawn. From a technical point of view, we can't spawn something if it's already spawned. So that's why it works like that, right? Fair enough.
And you know what's it's crazy? Like, it just took you maybe 10 seconds to come up with something like that, versus the actual answers we were just so used to getting, like these unclear kind of yeah, that's what we're thinking of trying to do, versus it's a yes or no, or if it's a blurred line, then give us the reason,
I think it always comes back to the hope that whoever's listening or whoever's asking is going to find whatever answer they were looking for in that sort of gray area that is displayed. And that's something I constantly will protest, and I will call out every time, because it feels like they don't want to take any responsibility for what they say. They want to just say stuff that anybody can transforming the answer they're looking for, right? That's what I get from that, and I really don't like it, to be honest. Anyway, closing thoughts, guys. I think we've been like, this is probably the longest stream ever, so I'm looking to.
All I'll say is we're gonna have to play it and wait and see. I haven't got high hopes, and my expectations. I'm not getting my hopes up like I have before in the past. I'm very apprehensive about some of the changes that are being made. I'm very excited about a limited number of them, such as the regiment system and things like that. Is it too little, too late? We're going to have to wait some time to find out. But ultimately, I'm going to try and reserve my ultimate opinion until I've had some time playing the new iteration of Foxhole.
Dark?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have everything said. There isn't really much I gotta go.
Right. Yeah, mostly same for me. We're going to be constantly giving you probably updates on after we see a bit of the dev branch. Like, for sure, we're going to discuss after the first war starts and whatnot, and we'll keep you updated from where we stand. As the closing thing, I do see Mr. Dury streaming, so with your permission, Dark and Avitus, I would initiate a raid on him.
All right.
He's been he's been a very influential part of the group of people that try and promote the game, so I think he deserves a bit of attention from us, right?
Red Shadow Legends. Let's go.
Please stick around for his watch. It's a good watch too. He does some pretty crazy and funny things.
Yeah, so for Dury generally tries and focus on crazy shit, like, let's see how many FAs I can stick in and other stuff like that. He's a really fun guy, and the most important thing about him, he's a really fair guy. He's always going to call out cheaters and people trying to pull nasty things, so we do recommend you stick with him. Right, let's go, guys. If everybody's ready, I'm initializing this. We'll be catching you very soon. Thanks for showing up as usual. And I guess get ready to fire those artigans, because everything else is set, right?
Yeah,
That's
you're
no longer.
be pretty foolish if you're staying in those foxholes now.
There is no foxhole. Time to get in those craters, boys.
Let's go,
Those
boys.
grenades. Flush the next crater out and then go in.
Go.